Hey everyone, my name's Josh Smith, and I just want to welcome you to our channel called Hope for Living and for tuning into our first ever video on this channel. Here on this channel, we're all about giving you hope even when life feels hopeless. We live in a world where there's so much bad news, whether you go on the news channel, whether you're reading articles, whether you're going on social media, there seems to be just new bad news every day. In a world of bad news, we want to give you good news. We want to give you hope, even when life feels hopeless. And so today, we're going to be having a conversation about the coronavirus and hope. And those are two things that maybe you wouldn't think would go together or be talked about together, but we really do believe that you can have hope in the middle of this crisis that is the coronavirus crisis. And so we're going to be having this conversation together with myself and my two best friends of over 23 years, my younger brother Griffin and Dakota, who is also younger than me by a few weeks, which he's always resented and has always secretly wanted to be older than me.
Slide that in there.
I have to, because it's just it's a fact of life. It's a reality. Guys, before we start,
I can hang up now.
But before we start the conversation, I guess, guys, you were to tell people, I guess, a little bit about just who you are and also a little bit about our relationship as a group.
You want to go first, Dakota?
Sure. So I'm
Dive.
Dakota.
Hi, Dakota.
Kind of the third wheel here.
Not at all.
You got the two brothers. I was always just tag along. No.
Is that true? I was the tag.
You could argue
Yeah,
that
you
Griffin
came.
was
I was
tag
the
along
afterthought.
Yeah,
because
Griffin
he
was
was
the
the
tag along.
younger
He came
one.
a couple years later. Ryan, that's true. Yeah. No, I am. I'm best buds with these two guys. Like Josh said, known each other for Josh 25 years. Griffin, however the heck old you are, I've known.
What are you, 19 again?
Are you wait? Are you 17? You're 17, right? You just turned 17, right?
23. Okay, I've been 20.
Yeah. So we've just been doing life together and been through a lot of things and have a lot of stories together. I work in the technology field, which is a little different than Josh and Griffin. They work in ministry, so there's we have different perspective on things, which is always fun in our conversations and just either debates or arguments or whatever about everything. But I love these guys to death, and Josh asked and wanted to kind of do our normal discussions, but in front of a audience to maybe interact with more people and bring more people into our little group here. I said, heck yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm excited to do more of these and kind of let people know what I think about things and hear from you guys too. And yeah, it should be fun. Griffin?
It's going to be fun. Selfishly, I'm just wanting to do this because it's actually just fun. But then also I want to do it because I think that it can share some hope to people in this time where a lot of people don't have it. But anyways, Griff, what's your perspective on us as a group and also you personally? Tell people a little bit about you.
Yeah, as mentioned before, I was the afterthought for many years. Being the younger brother, I think you end up the quintessential, like, just following them around all the time. Like, that was me. I wanted to do whatever they did, and I could keep up for the most part, but every once in a while I was excluded, and that hurt to my core. Still healing and recovering from those wounds.
Wait, have you talked about this with the counselor yet?
Actually, I haven't. I'm just kind of opening up about it. No. But no, yeah, I love these guys. We've been best friends longer than 17 years. And Josh and I are both in ministry. We have that common ground. But Dakota is, although while he is in the tech industry, he's very involved, and I would consider you and minister.
Yeah.
Dakota.
Absolutely.
Wow. Thank you.
Minister to my heart,
My
David.
gosh.
Yep.
Boys than one.
I got to go change my LinkedIn.
You really should.
So Griff, tell people a little bit about like your musical abilities. Griffin is, I would say, although he's the younger one, he is basically, he's very multi-talented in ways that neither Dakota and I are. So tell people about that. You've recently gone viral on TikTok.
Wow. This is getting brought up.
He's a TikToker now, if that's how the kids say it now these days. I don't know.
Hey, yeah, it's just a little fun, I mean, I guess I've just been singing ever since I was a little kid, and I'm passionate about. And I love what music can do to connect people to the truth of the gospel and the character of God and the community. And I just love it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to try to get him to sing on this video, but he didn't want to do it. So maybe in the next one. But Griff, as you were saying that you've always loved to sing ever since you were little, Dakota, I was thinking of the video that I think you took the video of him when he was a little kid driving down Vasco Road. And he was like singing in America, but it like was terrible and he didn't have
Yeah.
it yet.
I think the seed was there though. I think that's when that's when I was born.
Yeah.
Your musical gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know the words.
I think
it didn't stop me.
you didn't know the words. You were a little off key. I think me and Josh made fun of you a little bit, and then you went home and you're like, never again. And then
I
you
was
really worked on it.
key. I didn't sing for another person for another decade.
Well, I would say
I remember you looking in the mirror and going, "You will become a good singer." And that's when it started.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think he definitely had the passion before he had the gifting. But
Whoa.
but now he definitely has the gifting, and you have an amazing voice, and it's really cool how God uses that. Well, we're going to talk about and have a conversation about the coronavirus and hope. But before we do that, I mean, obviously we're in California, not just in California, but we're in, the Bay Area where, we were kind of put on lockdown before everybody else. So I think this is like week 3 for us. What are some like weird things that you guys have done during this lockdown time in your house being just cooped up? I know I got a few, but I'll let you guys go first.
Weird things. Griffin, do you have any weird things?
Not anything like outlandishly weird, but peculiar. Like something I wouldn't normally do is like I have a when you have blocks of the day that are so open as you do now, you do things that you would normally do. And one of those things for me is scheduling tea times throughout the day. So I haven't been I'm an avid tea drinker now because of the shelter in place. So I have 3 scheduled times in the day, 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the evening, and then 1 at nighttime. And I'm currently drinking my nighttime tea. So
it's really
I'm a addict.
Wow.
So
for me, you had a lot more downtime to learn new things. So I've been learning a lot of new skills. Today I watched a whole multi-hour series on to learn negotiation from a CIA negotiator who negotiates hostage situations. So if anybody is ever in a hostage situation, I can help. Just call me. I'll come in.
I got a
the
guy
main things
now.
I've learned today. Yeah, I'm the guy.
What are some techniques you learned?
Techniques I've learned. Let's see. I mean, I'll just do them right here. Josh, tell me, what are you feeling right now? How are you feeling right now? Like, how are you feeling today?
Well, I feel very excited right now because I'm hanging out with my homies. So
you hang out with your homies?
Yeah.
So you're hanging out with your homies?
Yeah, that's right.
I need to work on my negotiation skills. The thing I learned today is that you just literally what he said is you repeat back the last 3 words that the person
so
says
mirror,
to you.
basically being a mirror to them.
Yeah, but you didn't really take the cues. So
That's
now
what
let's go back to the
That's
drawing
what
board.
Andy
Learn more.
Bernard did too in
Obviously,
The Office. Andy
He
Bernard.
still works out.
hey, listen, the CIA negotiator, that's exactly what he says. Okay? I've been using it all day on my dog, and it's working great.
Okay, I like that. For me,
You
I've been
should have
doing,
done this after he said hanging with the homies. You should have been like, "You killed them," and then like accused them of murder.
Yeah.
I know it was you. Oh my gosh. No, for me, I've been doing some weird things. Guys, do you remember in high school when I played football and whenever we were in public, since I played wide receiver, I would run routes in public. Like I'd run wide receiver routes to practice my routes. Like if we were at the mall, I would run around. It was really embarrassing. Well, I went into my car like a few days ago and I found this football, and I've been running around the house throwing myself passes. Like I'm
Oh,
freaking Tom Brady throwing it to Rob Gronkowski in the end zone. And that's how I've been getting exercise, is throwing the football to myself. It's kind of embarrassing.
there's a challenge going around where you're supposed to throw the football over your house, run to the other side of the house, and catch it.
Yeah. Saw that.
Like you go start in the backyard, run to the front yard.
Mhm.
Has
Let's
anyone
try
actually been able to do that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm that athletic to do that. But the other weird thing I did
I
was
think you try.
the other thing I've been doing is I've been making a lot of food more than lately. And
Ooh.
I think I sent Griff a picture of this, but I don't think I told you about this. I made the best PB&J I've ever made in my life.
I don't think that's a thing.
No, it is a thing, because listen. All right.
I don't think it is.
Strawberry jelly, peanut butter, all right, sliced bananas, and then I split up a Reese's peanut butter cup and put it in there.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a little weird,
So
but
as far as, no, it was good. It was good, like if you were like 12 and making food.
You were having dessert.
I did feel a bit like I was Will Ferrell and Elf, and putting like the syrup on the spaghetti or whatever.
Yes. Great metaphor.
I was definitely
exactly right. Well, hey, you know what? You're honing your skills. I can negotiate. You can make PB&J sandwiches. Griffin can make us some tea. Huh? Right?
It works.
So, to transition a little bit, switch some gears, kind of speaking about how weird this time is and the weird stuff we're doing. Josh, I know that one of the purposes of us getting together is to kind of talk more seriously about this hope, how people are really feeling hopeless during this time. So I just wanted to ask you, how would you define hope in this hopeless time?
Yeah. Well, I think actually to define hope and hopelessness, I think hope, very simply put, could be a confident expectation for a better future. That's what hope is, simply, is it's a confident expectation for a better future. But hopelessness is, I think, actually just the opposite of that. It's when things are bad and you think they're never going to get better, right? And I think some people, they feel that way. They feel like things in their life maybe were already bad before this whole coronavirus thing happened, and now things have just gotten worse. Maybe you've lost a job, maybe you've lost a loved one. And it's like, man, things feel like they're just bad and they're never, ever, ever going to get better. And that's hopelessness. But hope is a confident expectation for a better future. And I love this one C.S. Lewis quote. It's a pretty famous one. You guys have probably heard it before. Maybe some of those of you that are listening have heard it before. But C.S. Lewis basically says hope isn't mere wishful thinking, but it's confident expectation.
Yeah.
And so the idea is like, because a lot of people today, when they talk about hope, they say hope in a way of like, they're talking about as wishful thinking, like, oh, I hope, this burrito I ate doesn't give me gas, right? Like, I hope that the weather's nice out today, right? It's hope is wishful thinking. But really, as the Bible defines it, is hope is a confident expectation for a better future. And that hope is a better future that's found in heaven. And ultimately, I think that's where we all have to find our hope in, because everything in this world, it passes away, it's perishable, right? It doesn't last forever. But ultimately, heaven is something that is going to last a whole lot longer than our time here on earth will last, right? I mean, our life might be 60, 70, 80, if we're lucky, 100 years, right? Ricky Bobby said with his money and advances to modern technology, he could live to 200. But even then, right, it's like your time here on earth, it's limited. And really, you need to have a hope that is able to cause you to look towards a confident expectation for a better future. And that hope, I think, can be found in heaven. And heaven can only be accessed through a relationship with Jesus and believing in Jesus, because heaven is knowing Jesus forever. And you can't know Jesus forever in heaven if you don't start a relationship with him here on earth. And so I think the beginning to starting to have hope is realizing that there's a God that made you, that loves you, that died for your sins on the cross. He wants to forgive you, and he wants you to simply place your faith in him so that you could have hope from him here on your life on earth that will ultimately lead to hope in heaven forever. So that's how I would define hope. But maybe if you're listening, and like, I would just say this for hopelessness, and then I'm going to stop talking because I've already talked too long. For those that maybe feel hopeless, I just want to say that, like, oftentimes we feel hopeless because of temporary emotions. And don't let your temporary emotions make you make long-term decisions because of your hopelessness. I know there are many people that, feel so hopeless. Maybe they feel like giving up in life. Maybe feel like taking their life. But know that, this coronavirus crisis, whatever feelings you're feeling right now, like, those are temporary. And that ultimately there is a future that's brighter, that is better, and it can be found in Jesus. And so there is hope no matter what hardship you're going through. And so that's how I would talk about hope and hopelessness. But that's enough. I don't know. Any of you guys want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll speak to a little bit just with hope. I think a lot of people are hopeless right now because they had a misplaced hope before all this happened. And usually you don't know if you have a misplaced hope until things go wrong. And so I always think of this, the scripture when Jesus talks about, building on the rock or the sand, and he's talking about foundation. And I think when you have a weak foundation, it's never exposed until a storm comes. Then a storm comes and everything falls apart. It can be easily taken down. So I think a lot of people are hopeless right now because beforehand on player with Dad, and we were like pulling weeds, kind of doing some yard work, and he wanted me to take out this bush that had like pretty deep roots on it. It took me forever. But then he also wanted me to take out this like batch of flowers that were on the side, because we're gonna make a garden there. We're gonna start planting some seeds there. And it took me like an hour to get this bush out. And then it took me a good less than 3 minutes to get these flowers out. And the reason why is because they didn't have deep roots. And I think a lot of our hopelessness has to do with not having deep roots in God, deep roots relationally with God, with the scriptures, with understanding and having a certain level of depth, with hearing from him and seeking him out and being in community with people. And so I think the core of hopelessness just has to do with like not placing it in God. And so that's probably
that's good. Yeah, I like that, dude. That's
good.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's a great analogy.
It is. I just, the roots and the gardening and I love it. It's so true. I don't know. It kind of got me thinking too a little bit about like, how do you have hope in hardship? Because Griff, you were saying like, hey, a lot of times we feel hopeless because we've actually put our hope in the wrong place. And so I think a lot of the times it's when we're in the middle of the hardship that we realize we didn't really have as much hope as we thought. because anybody could say when like things are going great, when the economy's going great, when you got a good job, when your health is good, when people like you, when you're able to do whatever you want, it's so easy to say like, oh yeah, like I feel so hopeful about the future. Like things are going to be awesome. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like when gold goes through the fire and all the impurities are melted away and only that which is pure stands. It's the same with our life. When we go through the fire, everything melts away and all that's really left is, okay, what hope do you really have? Like how much hope do you really have when you go through the fire? Like, because all the other stuff's going to melt away. And I think a lot of us are finding out how much hope we really have when a lot of the impurities in our life are being melted away by this fire. And so it just kind of got me thinking as you were talking, Griff, like, how do you have hope in the middle of the hardship? And, you know, of course, Romans 8:28, some of you listening may have heard this verse before, but it's a promise from God in scripture. Romans 8 verse 28, it says, God works all things together for the good of those that he has called according to his purpose. And the idea is that God can bring good even out of bad.
Yeah.
That he actually specializes in taking the worst things in your life and bringing something beautiful out of it. He takes the brokenness and he makes something beautiful. Yeah. And the way I always think about it, I actually stole this illustration from Pastor Rick Warren. You guys know is my favorite pastor of all time. But I kind of make it more personal. As you guys know, Jamie's a really good baker, and actually she made some of her chocolate chip cookies today. I've had 4 of them today so far. It's like,
wow.
Yeah, it's really bad. And then I had ice cream before this too. So pray for me and my health.
What the heck you doing?
I'm just trying to get the coronavirus 15. I don't know.
Gotta take care of yourself.
No, that's not it. It's the COVID-19.
Okay. COVID-19.
Not the coronavirus 15. It's called the COVID-19. You got to gain the COVID-19.
Oh, okay. Okay, that was good. That was true. But anyways, I
got it. My wife. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
My wife made that joke up. I got to give her credit for it.
Oh, okay. Cite Jacqueline for the joke.
Yeah.
Jacqueline's so funny. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I guess I think of this baking illustration in regards of like how we could have hope during hardship is like when you're baking, especially if it's a good baker like my wife, the end product is something delicious. It's something you really enjoy. It's something that really can be a beautiful piece of art that you just shove in your face and enjoy. But the truth is, when it comes to baking, is it takes all these individual ingredients, and not all of those ingredients, taste good by themselves. Like, I could eat chocolate chips while I'm watching Netflix, right? Like I just eat a whole bag of chocolate chips. They taste good by themselves. A stick of butter, on the other hand, right? That doesn't taste so good by itself, right? You take a bite of a stick of butter, and that tastes disgusting. And it's kind of the same with life. As we have ingredients in our life, we have moments, we have seasons, we have weeks, we have months in our life that are awesome. They taste good. We feel good. And there are moments in our life that don't taste so good. We'd rather them not be in our life, if we're honest sometimes. But what God promises is that he takes all of those ingredients in our life and he works them together for good. And so you can have hope, for those of you that are listening during hardships, and especially if you're going through a hardship right now with this whole corona crisis, is just know that if you place your faith in Jesus, if you follow Jesus and you make Jesus your hope, you ask him to forgive you of your sins, to give your life to him, to have a relationship with him, that he promises you that if you do that today for the first time, or if you've already done that he promises to take everything in your life and in a way that I don't even understand, because he's God and he's so much bigger than us. He promises to work all that together for good, which is so amazing. And I've seen him do it over and over and over again in my life. And I don't know, I'd love to kick this back to you guys. What are some ways in your guys' life that maybe you guys would like to share with those that are listening, that you've seen God use bad things in your life and use them for good? I know I'm kind of putting you guys on the spot here. I didn't really prepare you for this question, but I just felt prompted that might be something that would be cool for you guys to share that might encourage those that are listening.
You want to speak to that, Dakota?
Yeah, we're going to let Dakota speak to that.
Sure.
He's like,
the bad things, you're asking examples of bad things that God's turned good.
Yeah, he's brought maybe he didn't even turn it good. Maybe he brought good out of it, right? So like maybe the situation didn't even get better, but God did something in you or whatever.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, I would say the biggest thing is just my life in general and what the I don't know, what am I trying to say? The barriers that I was given upon birth that could have turned bad real quick, turned into a blessing in a lot of different ways. Not only my own life, but blessing other people. But we'll get into that. I know they have a segment called Pre-Existing Condition. How does that affect you during Corona? Right? Is that the segment name?
Yeah, actually, I mean, since it kind of,
you're at risk. What should you do? That's what it is, right?
Like,
yeah, a little thing. You're at high risk. Now what? So we'll get into that later. But for everybody watching, I was born with a disease, a genetic disease that threatened my life. I wasn't supposed to live. I was supposed to live a very short life. I came out though, still pretty healthy, given the circumstances. But my parents were given some bad news about my life. And I'm 25 now. I've kind of beaten all that stuff. And God's been blessing me over and over again, not only in my health, but the things I get to do in my life, people I get to interact with, people I get to impact, and people I don't even know that I've impacted just by my story that was told when I was born, and the people that have prayed for me, and then seeing how God's faithfulness has fallen upon my life, that and I don't even realize how it's affecting that person. I just think it's really cool to think about. I mean, there was hundreds of people that were praying for me when I was born, and for them to see their prayers work for me to, get past all of these barriers and all these things that were pretty grim, and be 25 years old, healthy, married, living a normal life.
So
seeing all this medical advancement. I mean, it's a proof that prayer works, that God answers prayers, and I'm kind of living that. I never really think about it. Just because it's really actually a lot to think about. Like, I'm kind of used in that way. You know what I mean? So that's definitely the biggest thing, that God's turned a bad thing into a blessing or into something good. So
that's good.
Griffin?
I love it.
What I love about
you?
your story, Coda, is just that the fortitude that you've internal fortitude that you've developed throughout your life because of that. And for me, it's inspiring. I know it is for all the people that love you and know that you have such a strength about you. And I think that it's an encouragement to know that man, maybe you're going through whatever measure of what you would call through the fire means, or being in the middle of a situation or a circumstance or a reality in your life that is unsettling or scary, if you're honest. And I think there's a certain part of that where you go, wow, there are real fears to this. There's a real, this almost seems overwhelming to overcome. And then there's another aspect of it is wow, if I can get to the other side of this, there's going to be something inside of me internally that's going to be strong enough to not just get me through it, but to help other people. And I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, here, I literally this just came to me from God. You ready?
Whoa.
Ready? This is good. This is good.
All right.
I better hit it. But this is for somebody that's listening. Is your biggest tests will be the strongest part of your testimony.
Let's go.
You see.
Wait, say it one more time, just in case they cut out.
Okay, just to cut out, just in case for the people in the back of the room. Your biggest tests will be the strongest point of your testimony.
Hello.
Because your testimony is your story of God working in your life. And a lot of the times, the parts of your story that you would sometimes you're like, God, I wish this chapter wasn't in my story. was too painful. It was too rough. Like, I don't want this chapter in my story. And God's like saying, no, that chapter in your story, the test that you thought that you didn't want to go through, you didn't think you'd be able to pass, that's going to be the strongest point of your testimony, because it's in your weakness, like the Bible says, that actually you're strong. Because it's when you're weak, you have to depend on God. It's when you're weak that you come to the end of yourself and you come to the start of following God and his grace in your life and him strengthening you. And that's, I mean, really not only when God strengthens you, but it's like the most relatable you are, because nobody wants to hear how awesome you are. Like, we have enough of that on social media of people trying to put off a persona. And that's the last thing we want to do here on this channel, is put off a persona that makes you feel bad about your own life. Like, we want to be real. We're real people. We have real struggles. And we're just people that are messed up, and God loves and has forgiven us, and he's done some stuff in our life. And, we want to share that with you. And so know your biggest test can be the strongest point in your testimony. So did that pass your guys' thing? Was that okay?
It's good. It's good.
Okay.
I received
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry.
Yeah. I like it. No, that was good.
We had to throw that in there. Well, Coder, I guess going into the at-risk thing, why don't you, let's dive into that a little bit more. Tell people more about specifically like what disease you were born with, what it has been like to live with that. And then I guess, how would you encourage somebody else that, is at risk during this time, since you yourself would be somebody that'd be considered that?
Yeah, sure. Yes, I was born with cystic fibrosis. It's a genetic disorder that mostly is pulmonary, meaning in the lungs, affects my lungs. When I was born, the average life expectancy was 20s, mid-20s.
Crazy.
And it's just gone up every year since I was born. There's been a lot of medical advances. So I'm really healthy, and I believe that I'll continue to be really healthy and live a full life because of all the advances that have happened. So I know, it's just something that I've lived with. It honestly doesn't really define me. It's something that I think about too much, to be honest. It's just a daily routine thing. I've always been kind of proud of myself in the way that I'm able to live with a decent amount of trust in God that I have for some reason, and I don't know if it was like taught in me, or if I was just God has literally put this peace over me my whole life. But I tend not to worry about too many things, and in that is also my health. I mean, of course, I take care of myself, and I'm not just willy-nilly with things where I don't worry. I just do whatever I want. But I take care of myself, and I trust that God will take care of me. And everything that happens to me, or everything that I'm facing, God's got under control. What I'm going through there's a plan there, and I have nothing to worry about, because the plan, is always going to come through. And I have kind of a dark. It's a weird kind of credo that, how you just said your little one-liner of what you say, test. You're gonna make your testimony. My one-liner is, who cares, or does it really matter? That's my one-liner. So whenever I'm facing something, when I'm facing something, whether it's a pandemic, which you face every once in a while, that's a joke, or
once every 100 years.
My wife left a fork out on the counter, and I don't like clutter, or something like that, or bad traffic. Whenever I'm starting to get worried about something, or get I don't know, upset, any type of emotion that can kind of tear me farther away from God, I think, does this matter? The two things that matter in my life are, at this moment, my wife, God, and my wife, and that's it.
Yeah.
Those are the two main things that I need to worry about, and that's it. So I'm going through, jumping into this pandemic, and the question that you asked of, so how are you kind of taking this, or how are you responding to a pandemic, being a person that is high at risk, and if this virus does get to me, there's a much higher chance of it being detrimental. And my answer is the same. Doesn't matter. And, you know, in my mind, and how I look at my what God's done for me, and you know what He has for me, it doesn't matter, because I know that, you know, if the worst comes to worst, I'll be in heaven. I'll be with God, and that's what my plan was. I've impacted a lot of people. You know, I've lived the plan that God had for me, and it was time for me to come home. You know, and that's a very high level kind of spiritual answer. And I know some people will be like, "Oh, that's great, Dakota. You know, yeah, just trust God." Like that's kind of like the basic answer anybody would say, but it's true. When you have that faith in God, when you truly read what He promises you, when you truly understand, you know, these basic things that God's promised us, and then look at the impact of what He's done for us as well, nothing else really matters. So that's how I'm looking at this pandemic. And yeah, I'm living at I have the same attitude, the same level of worry, I guess, as I did before this pandemic, and I will continue to have the same afterwards. I enjoy the time at home, honestly. When I'm being safe, I'm always staying inside, probably more than others, and everybody should honestly stay home. But yeah, it's a positive. I'm getting a lot of things done. I'm staying, you know, I'm keeping healthy, and yeah. So that's my advice to the other people that may be struggling with being at high risk. Be safe. Obviously, take precautions. I mean, God can do anything, but you as a human are not invincible as well. You know, you got to take care of yourself. But once you take care of yourself, you got nothing else to worry about.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. The only thing that matters is the relationship with Jesus Christ, and that's it. And He's your number one. So, I mean, you're His number one. So,
there we
you got
go.
nothing else to worry about.
And that's why Griffin said Dakota
the mindset.
is ministry, because that was good right there. Right, Griff?
Now it
Let's
wasn't.
go, Bishop. Let's
He was
get
hitting it. He was hitting it.
I want to
anything to add?
Yeah, I think what's so good about what Dakota's talking about is he's talking about a perspective. I think your perspective matters, and your mindset matters a lot when you're dealing with a problem, right? You know, we're talking about a pandemic, which is impacting the world globally. So many people, whether you're an at-risk person, you're older, you have a condition that you've had for years, or maybe you're in a financial crisis because of everything that's happening with our economy. People are losing their jobs, businesses are shutting down. I think what's so beautiful about what Dakota's talking about is that, man, when your perspective and your hope is anchored in a future, and that future is with Jesus in heaven, then the momentary, Paul talks about this, he talks about the momentary afflictions. And that's just going to be lightweight, basically, when you think about the hope of heaven and the glory of heaven. And so I love that response. I love that perspective that we're allowed to have when we're following Jesus.
That's good. I think that's really good. Perspective. I think perspective is so key, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think that is what Dakota does so well, is he just has a really good perspective.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't always have a good perspective at all. And so I gotta, because I think it's hard to have perspective. I was just, as you said, that Griff, it triggered this in me. Instead of having God's perspective, where He kind of sees the whole big picture, and He's like, hey, your time here on earth is so small. Like, you got all of eternity with me. Like you were saying, like, these light and momentary afflictions can't even compare to the coming glory that are coming in heaven. Like, rather than seeing God's perspective when He sees the whole picture, we just see our little tiny perspective. We just look at the moment, and we look at the pain of the present moment, and that's our perspective, rather than seeing the whole timeline and the whole picture of what God's doing. And so I think that's so key, no matter what pain you're in, is to have that perspective that Griffin was talking about. But Griff, you mentioned kind of how the economy has been affected by this COVID-19 crisis. And Dakota is kind of our financial guru of the group.
We're going to get
Stock market guru, tech guru, tycoon. Actually, funny story, Dakota's always been really good with money. We used to be addicted to a game called RuneScape. Those of you that are Gen Z probably don't know what I'm talking about right now. Maybe a lot of you millennials will, but RuneScape was an online game where basically you can create a character, like a medieval character, and you could build them up to like be like strong warriors or like archers or whatever. But you could also like make a lot of money by like fishing. And even when we were younger and played games like that, Dakota would like be a warrior, but even then he would just like find ways to like make a bunch of money and rip people off online to like get money.
I would not rip people off.
There were some legal issues. There was some legal action that took place.
I did start the biggest RuneScape Ponzi scheme, but that's besides the point. So I worked hard for my RuneScape money. I fished for hours.
You really did.
So funny. No, but since Griff brought up the economy, Dakota, I mean, what would be some like financial advice you give to people during this time, whether it's somebody that lost a job, they're low on their money? What would be some practical advice you'd have for them?
Yeah, sure. So I'll keep it kind of short. I mean, there's not too much. There's not any like, I got the secret key. If you just do this one thing during this time, you're going to be great, blah, 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 all this stuff. Yeah. It's pretty basic stuff. So I would say there's a couple things going along with mindset. Again, mindset is important in basically every aspect. And especially in the financial aspect of this pandemic, mindset is everything. So the first thing that you need to kind of step out of your body and tell yourself and actually believe it, that it's not time to panic. This won't last forever. These types of things, they last, most of the time 3 to 6 months, sometimes a year, but rarely longer than that. So it's not going to last forever. This is actually, and then going further with that perspective, this is actually a perfect time to practice leaning even more on God financially. It's funny, during good times when we have plenty, a lot of the times, we tend, and I'm very guilty of this, I tend to start leaning on myself. And, I don't lean on God more. And it's just not good practice for when, I mean, we always need to lean on God, but when you're going through a really tough time, that's when it's the most important time to lean on God. Mm-hmm. So take this is a perfect time to put that in practice, and God is there and he's ready for you to lean in him. And so to go even further, to go along those lines, the second I would do right after you change your perspective is pray. Ask God to take care of you, give you peace and extra wisdom than you normally would during this time. And say that prayer daily. Say that prayer as much as you can during this time. And the third thing, again, go along with mindset, is to actually step out of your body, step out of your panic, and express thankfulness for what you do have. So whether you have a job, don't have a job, have a place to live, don't have a place to live, everyone has something to be thankful for. The fact that you're alive means you have something to be thankful for. So during a time of hardship, it actually feels really, really good to step back and give thanks to God for the blessings that you do have, and it'll completely do a 360 turn on the frame of your view on this situation. So that's definitely something that I've been trying to do as well. And instead of when I find myself panicking or making plans of what if this happens or this, it's best just to calm down and say, what if those things do happen? Great, but what I have now, I'm extremely blessed to have, and a lot of people don't have what I have right now. So once you get that mindset in check, you're going to feel real calm. You're going to feel that, God's taking care of you. God will get you through this. This will end. we're always going to get through this. Our downtimes actually tend to be, they tend to weigh more, at least in our eyes, than the good times. But the good times tend to be around longer. So I don't know. For me, I've been like realizing that, like, an example, the stock market. Like, we've had a 10-year bull run, everybody making all this money for 10 years. It's been a giant celebration for 10 years. And then it has come crashing down, but it's only been crashing for like 2 months. And it may only continue crashing for like another 2 months and then go back to being great and continue on the rise. But during these 2 to 4 months, it's so much more heavy. It feels like it's so much more in our minds than the past 10 years where everybody just made a bunch of money investing in the stock market. So again, just keep that perspective, keep that framing. Good times are going to come again, and they'll last longer than these hard times. All right. So now once you get your mindset right and just kind of think at a high level about this stuff, there are practical things you could do. There's just pretty basic things. First thing you do is sit down and put together a budget, and put together a strict budget for you and your family that you can follow during this time. It allows you to still live, but well below your means. These are very uncertain times, obviously, and if you can live below your means and keep to that, it'll help you a lot in terms of saving, or if you do end up having to lose income. So just writing that down on paper. A lot of people don't have this strict budget that they write down, but it's practice to do when you're not in economic turmoil, but it's really important to do while you're in economic turmoil, because it'll allow you to get through to the other side. If you still have a job, save whatever you can. Get to at least 3 months of expenses if you can. That will give you that 3 month runway, which again, this thing can last, typically at 3 to 6 months. So if you can live for at least 3 months, you could definitely get through that. If you have more flexibility as far as income, this is the best time to invest. So I've been telling these guys, they ask me financial and like stock stuff all the time, and I just say, just buy stuff. I give them recommendations on like safe things to buy, but right now is the best time to buy. Even if it drops, even if things kind of go down in value by another 20%, keep buying more. Like I said, these things are short-lived, and then we're going to go on another 10-year bull run. America always bounces back. The stock market always bounces back. So invest if you can. If you have unfortunately lost your job, first of all, I'm going to say I'm sorry. I'm praying for you. Yeah. You'll get through this. The practical thing that you can do is that budget I mentioned earlier, really take that seriously. Again, this won't last forever. So if you can live on a tight budget for a few months, you will come out even stronger than you were before this, because you're going to have that budget. You're going to have that frugality about you. So it actually will help you, propel you into times when you get out, you do get your job back, and you're able to pick up where you left off, or at least close to where you left off. And the second thing I would say is, the government just passed a $2 trillion stimulus bill. It's the biggest in history. And there's a reason that they did that. They know that, unemployment right now, I think there's like 12 million people that just filed for unemployment, which is a record by like 20-fold. Like, it's insane how much of a record 12 million people getting laid off is. So first of all, you're not alone. Second, the government has passed these things to help us get through this, and it's there for you to take as help. So apply for it, get more information about it, and get the help if you need it. The government wants American people to get through this thing, obviously. So if you do want to find out more about that, you can search EDD on Google and find your state's website. I think it stands for Employment Development something, and they have all the information for where you can apply for government assistance. So those are the main things. Those are big things to follow. Well, you're getting through this, and like I said, we will. So don't worry.
I love it. That's really good stuff. Griff, Dakota just knocked it out of the park, giving us some really practical advice on that, and also the mindset aspect of it. But can you speak on that kind of topic of somebody that maybe is struggling financially, lost their job, there's some financial uncertainty for them? Can you speak to them on maybe a more emotional level on how you would address somebody like that and what you'd want to speak to them in this time.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that the first thing, you hear it all the time in Christian circles, but talking about, you know, don't do life alone. I think it's really important. If you're going through a financial crisis or you're going through something really difficult and you don't see the solution, um, ask for help. I think it's a really healthy thing to just go, hey, listen to whoever you have who's in your corner, family members, friends, people that you trust that are reliable and care about you. I would just go like, hey, I need help here. Maybe you just need to talk about it first, addressing the emotional aspect. I think that's just the first thing is like process what you're going through, be honest about it, have the conversation. And I think oftentimes, kind of back to the hopelessness and then some of the emotional instability. I think a lot of people are depressed right now and anxious about the future. I mean, being inside, stuck all day, it's like everything that was there before, routine wise, is gone. And I think a lot of people are feeling out of funk. I think another thing I would say is like find a new routine and a new rhythm and some things that you can do every day that it might not be the same thing as it was last month because your life has kind of been turned upside down. I think it's a healthy thing to go, okay, like just because this isn't what we wanted or what we thought was going to happen during this time, that doesn't mean we waste it, And so I think being emotionally healthy, a lot of that just has to do with like making sure that you're checking on yourself and like allowing other people to be inside of your world. So that's probably where I'd go with that.
That's good. And I could just personally say that, we are better together. And it's in times of crisis that you need community more than ever. I mean, that's why I'm so blessed to have you guys in my life and other people as well that really come around me in times of crisis when things are just chaotic. But to close out our time together, I actually wanted to read a passage of scripture in Romans chapter 5, verse 5, as we've been talking about hope and how to have hope during this coronavirus crisis. And there's a verse in Romans chapter 5, verse 5, where it says that hope does not put you to shame. Hope does not put you to shame. And you see, hope, when you find hope in Jesus, it will never, ever, 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 ever put you to shame. And I just want to speak this over those of you that are maybe listening right now, that if you've tried to find hope in someone or something other than Christ, that is a hope that ultimately will put you to shame, especially when you go through hardship. But if you put your hope in Jesus, it'll be a hope that will never put you to shame. I'll put it this way. If I were to go to I guess the 100th story of a really large building, and I went all the way to the top and I'm looking down at the bottom of the street and I'm up really high, and I say, you know what? I have hope. I have the confident expectation of this better future, that if I jump off this building, I hope that once I jump off, I will grow wings out of my back and I'll be able to fly, right? Well, that'd be a misplaced hope. It'd be a misplaced hope because it's not grounded in reality. It's not grounded in truth. And you see, that's not the kind of hope that is when you place your hope in Jesus. Because if you place your faith in Jesus, if you follow Jesus, if you ask Jesus to come into your life, to forgive you of your sin, to start a relationship with him, he will give you a hope where he will come into your life. He will forgive you. He will always be with you. His love will never leave you. And that love will not only leave you here on your time on earth, but like we've been talking about this entire time, that's a hope that one day your faith will become sight. And when you die, you'll be in heaven and you'll see him. And ultimately, if you're here and you've been listening to this, and maybe you've never had that hope in Jesus before, maybe you've been going through this crisis and you've realized that you need hope more than ever, and you've been looking for it, and you've been looking for it your whole life, but you've been looking for it in the wrong places. And today, as we've been talking, God's been speaking to you. He's been calling your name. You want to start a relationship with him. Today's a day where you can actually do that. Today's a day where you can, for the very first time, have hope in Jesus by allowing him and asking him into your heart. I can tell you this, it's the best decision you could ever make in your life. it's the best thing you could ever do, is to ask Jesus to come into your life and let him be the hope that can help you endure through any hard times. So also, maybe there are those of you that are listening where maybe you've experienced that hope, but you need to just have more of that hope in your life. And maybe you know what it's like to have hope in Jesus, but this hardship has maybe revealed to you that you didn't have as much hope as maybe you had thought you'd had, and you want to have more of it. What I just like to do as we're closing out this time is I'm going to say a prayer to end our time and end this conversation. And if you're here and you're listening to this, God was speaking to you, and for the first time, you want to accept Jesus in your life, you want hope from him, you can pray this prayer along with me. Or if you're just listening and you just want more hope in him, even though you started that before, you can pray this prayer too. And so if you need hope, you can just pray something like this in your heart, wherever you're at, wherever you're listening to this, whether you're in a gym or you're in your room or wherever, you just talk to God personally like this. Jesus, thank you for making me, for dying for my sins on the cross, for being willing to forgive me. God, I need you for hope. I've looked to other places, to other people for hope, but today I'm looking to find my hope in you. I give my life to you. Thank you for giving me hope, unlike anything or anyone else ever could. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, hey, I just want to encourage you, if you prayed that prayer for the first time and you invited Jesus into your life, we're going to have a link in our description right below the video. It's going to say, I prayed for hope. I want to encourage you to click that link. Let us know that you prayed for hope. It'll take you less than a minute. It's a short form, and we'll get to follow up with you to help you in your new journey of following Jesus. We just love to encourage you and connect you to a church wherever you currently are. But also, if you just enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it. I know Griffin would and Dakota would too. If you would subscribe to our channel, and if it did give you hope, to also share it, because we live in a world that can be hopeless and needs hope. And also, we'd love just for you in the comments to interact with us. We'd love to respond. Let us know what was most helpful to you, and we'd love to just see that. So maybe we could speak more on some different topics that you enjoyed. But thanks again for joining us. You guys got any closing thoughts or any last words? No, we're good.
Hey, thanks for
Todd.
having me, Josh. And this is great. I hope we get to do this more and interact with more people on this medium. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. I love you guys. It was fun.
That was really fun. All right, we can just stop the recording then, I guess.